Blue Tales begins. The Caravaner and the Lion. Once upon a time, in distant lands, there was a trade route surrounded by seemingly endless deserts. The caravans traveling along this route carried spices, fabrics, gold, and various goods on the backs of camels. One of these caravans was led by Salim, an old and wise caravaner. One day, Salim would find himself in a very special story. Since his childhood, Salim had been traveling in the desert with caravans. He knew the scorching sun of the desert, the freezing cold of the night, sudden sandstorms, and the terror of thirst better than anyone else. But he had become accustomed to these difficulties and had become a man known for his patience and wisdom. His caravan always went regularly, and his goods were always complete. His passengers trusted him, and thieves would retreat when they heard his name. One morning, Salim prepared to set out on a new journey. They set out with 10 camels, various goods, and 2 assistants. The journey was long and difficult. After traveling for days, they decided to set up camp in one of the deep valleys of the desert they had reached. With the sunset, the cool air of the desert had left, and birds began to be heard from afar. The caravan camp was experiencing a quiet evening. The helpers were cooking, the camels were resting, and Salim was sitting on a rock praying. Just then, one of the camels suddenly neighed uneasily. Salim was startled and alert. A few minutes later, one of his helpers came to him, out of breath. "Sir, there is movement in the forest. I think a predator is approaching," he said in fear. Salim calmly stood up, took a torch with him, and walked towards the direction of the sound. His helpers were amazed at his courage. No one wanted to encounter a predator at night. Shortly after, he noticed a pair of yellow eyes shining in the darkness. When he squinted his eyes and looked carefully, he saw a lion slowly approaching. The lion was large and impressive. Its fur was as dark as night, its body as strong as steel. However, when he looked carefully, he noticed that the animal's right paw was injured. As he moved forward, he was limping and could not touch the ground properly. Salim spoke in a calm tone. "Stop, a wild animal. I know you are in pain. I remember you. Come, let me help you." The peace in his voice was calming like a lion. The predatory animal came to Salim and bowed its head. Salim suppressed the fear in his heart and put the torch on the ground. He took out the water skin and started to clean the lion's wound. The animal's paw was deeply wounded. It seemed that a thorn or a sharp stone had stuck it in. Salim carefully removed the thorns, poured water on the wound, and dressed it using a piece of cloth he had brought with him. "You will be better now," he said. He took a piece of meat from his bag and placed it in front of the lion. "This is your right. Eat your fill and regain your strength." The lion ate the piece of meat silently. Then he looked at Salim for a long time. The feeling of gratitude in his eyes deeply affected Salim. Then the lion calmly walked away into the darkness of the valley. The rest of the night passed peacefully. In the morning, one of his assistants approached Salim and said, "Sir, why did you help the lion instead of driving it away? It was a predator and could have harmed us." Salim replied with a smile, "It is our human duty to lend a helping hand to a living being. That lion was not a threat. It was a living being in need of help. The law of the desert is harsh, but we should not harden our hearts." Salim's words touched the hearts of everyone in the caravan. The journey continued and months passed. However, Salim had forgotten the lion he had helped. A few months later, Salim and his caravan were stopped by a group of bandits again in the depths of the desert. The bandits were armed and ruthless. They wanted to seize the goods in the caravan and harm the people. The assistants retreated in fear, and the camels began to move restlessly. At that moment, a roar was heard from the valley. The leader of the bandits stopped and looked towards the sound. From the darkness, the lion that Salim had helped appeared. There were 2 other lions with him. They roared and ran towards the bandits. The bandits scattered in fear and started to run away. Salim recognized the lion and closed his eyes in gratitude and prayed. After standing close to the caravan for a while, the lion left a look as if it was saying goodbye and moved away. This event changed the fate of Salim and the caravan. Now Salim's story reached not only the trade routes, but also the farthest corners of the desert. Everyone was talking about his compassion and courage towards animals. Over time, Salim's story became a legend, and a new teaching was added to the law of the desert. Compassion for nature is man's own salvation. To listen to more fairy tales and be informed about our fairy tales, subscribe to our Blue Fairy Tales channel and follow our channel.